Awful.
Not matcha, usually made in China. I would stay well away from any of that. Stay well away from any of that.
Real matcha is very hard to locate, but when you get a hold of it, it's velvety, aromatic, without that grassy aftertaste. Not to mention it's full of healthy antioxidants. But what if I told you there's a high chance all of the matcha you've tasted in your life is actually a lie? Whether you purchased from a reputable online marketplace or a national coffee chains. After traveling to Japan and having a real thing, many people, including hardcore matcha fans, are starting to realize that what they always thought of as a high-quality ceremonial matcha is something not quite that at all. Many times it is mixed with low-quality green tea dyed with colorants often made from insect-borne feces. Yes, you heard that right, it's feces. Other times by intentionally misleading you with useless labels like ceremonial grade, culinary grade, and all of that. Matcha is full of fraud and deception, and it's not straightforward at all to figure it all out. I will show you how these lies are perpetrated and how you can get your hands on the real stuff that will almost certainly blow your mind away. Your favorite matcha tea latte from Starbucks. But do you know what exactly in this lovely pastel green colored drink? Many people actually don't have a clue. And there's a good reason why. They probably don't want you to know. According to FDA, the ingredients used in the greatest amount is listed first. So we know that organic cane sugar represents at least 50% of the drink mix. It could also be as high as 90%, but Starbucks doesn't exactly disclose that information. As always, good old Cora had the answer. As it turns out, a whopping 82% comes from organic cane sugar and only 15% is from ground green tea. But there's no mention of matcha anywhere. This brings us to the next industry-wide big lie, disguising cheap green tea as matcha. Ground tea leaves here and this one. Can you guess which one is the real matcha? This is matcha and the one to the right is actually sencha. They are technically the same plant but look different, right? And the difference goes much further than that. Matcha basically is cultivated with extra care and steps to bring out the umami of green tea. The most important of these extra steps is a process called shading. Shading is a process of covering the tea leaves with hay mat to shade it from the direct sunlight a few weeks before harvesting. Astonishingly, this kickstarts a chain of chemical reactions to boost green antioxidants, which in turn turns the tea leaves from this dull brown color to a vivid neon colored green. Along this process, it gets a major umami boost and the texture also gets smoother and smoother. From this to this, matcha making is a delicate and labor-intensive process, and this makes matcha more expensive than other forms of green tea naturally. So when the drink mix simply says ground green tea or green tea powder, is it matcha or sencha? If the powder is purely matcha, the vendor will almost certainly label it as matcha, don't you think? So when it says green tea simply, you can assume the mix is entirely sencha or mostly so at least. Another thing you should look out for is colorants to enhance the green color. One of them is called bobbins facis or silkworm feces. Yes, it's literally droppings coming from worms that produce silk thread. These droppings have bright green colors and are very often used to color sencha to look like matcha. So you'll be indirectly ingesting insect droppings when you drink one of these matcha look-alike. Nasty. In short, do not just look at the labels but scrutinize them. But that's just the first step because the next lie is even more blatant. Jenny is a big matcha fan in LA. Repeatedly disillusioned with the quality of matcha in the nearby cafe, she looked for an authentic matcha powder online and actually found a bargain. Matcha from one of the most reputable tea estates from Uji, Kyoto called Koyamaen, and it is going for half the regular price. That's a bargain. She placed an order immediately. The package arrives in less than a week, but strangely enough, it is sent from Hangzhou City in southern China. Getting really suspicious suspicious, she compared what she received against authentic one, and the difference was not so clear at a glance. But look closely. There are these 2 extra characters here, and the round symbols are missing from the fake ones. The fake one has the amount that's half of the real one too, at 50 grams. And of course, the taste and the color of the powder inside is nothing like real matcha. What's more shocking to me is that the company that produced this counterfeit has a trademark on this fake brand, so this is legal in China. Recent cases are even more sophisticated. Tea leaves get shipped from China to Japan first in order to be able to call it made in Japan. Scammers always continue to find a loophole like this. The only way I recommend to ensure that you're getting the real matcha is to buy directly from Japanese manufacturer's website or its direct storefront in online marketplaces. There are also a few specialty matcha resellers that I trust. I'm making a complete matcha buying guide, so that'll be in the description box below when it's ready. The next big deception lies in the grade of matcha. When you search for matcha, people often get overwhelmed with choices. Matcha that is premium quality, single origin, ceremonial grade, even imperial ceremonial grade. Matcha these days has trendy packaging and buzzwords everywhere. These are the ones you should be getting, right? No. The truth is, these are all fancy marketing gimmicks used by Western importers to trick you into buying. In fact, these classifications don't even exist in Japan. In Japan, there is only high quality and low quality matcha, and high quality ones has a velvety texture, bright in color, subtle in bitterness, and full of umami and aroma. And they taste amazing whether in matcha lattes, desserts, or even at matcha ceremonies. Let us look at how good quality matcha is made. Green tea leaves are grown and harvested up to 4 times a year. But the good quality ones comes only from the first harvest after a long winter. During the long winter month, tea plants maintain all the umami and it gets condensed in the first pick or hatsuzumi in April or May. Tea pickers also pick out high quality leaves, usually at the top of tea plant, as the creme de la creme premium quality matcha. All of these are not possible at all with a large-scale machine harvesting. And lastly, using stone mill to grind the tea leaves is very important. An industrial grinding machine generates too much heat, and that causes nasty oxidization, changing the flavor of the tea leaves permanently. If these are such important determinants of good quality matcha, how come none of these factors are mentioned in the packaging in the West? To answer this, you have to look at the supply chain of matcha leaves. It all starts from the matcha producers. Many of them are very small and don't own facility to sow the tea leaves and grind them, so they sell these leaves to the main tea wholesalers. These wholesalers will buy the leaves from multiple tea producers, blend them, and grind them into powder. Then the powder is shipped to the distribution wholesalers, who in turn get it packaged and distributed domestically and internationally. Another layer to the supply chain, who in turn get it packaged and process it for distribution. As you may have guessed, most of the Western matcha brands are just resellers. They have no personnel in Japan, let alone capacity to cultivate tea plants on their own. Therefore, the only thing they can do is to contact the distribution wholesalers, look through their catalogs for samples, decide which one they want to import and repackage. Also remember that most tea powders from different producers across Japan are already blended at this distribution wholesaler level. So it's all mixed up. For these reasons, it's virtually impossible for most Western resellers to control the production process or even understand the tea production process of each of the tea farms in the tea blend. It's just physically too much work. There is one thing though that the Western brands do better. That is marketing. You can think of the Western brands as marketing experts, and most of their efforts are spent on coming up with pretty packaging, copywriting, and optimizing digital marketing campaigns with fabulous ads. You may be seeing one just now. Yes, you might end up getting the real thing from these resellers, but the price will most certainly be marked up significantly. The question now is, what should you do when there are lies and scams everywhere? The good news is there are a few ways you can get hold of good quality matcha at a reasonable price. One of which is to buy directly from Japanese tea farms. Reputable elite tea makers, you can buy directly from their websites, but they tend to be expensive, of course. You can also make use of a tea specialty websites with good selection of matcha, or even go to Japanese supermarkets near you. Did you also know that some tea farms in Japan sell their tea through online marketplace in Japan? Like Rakuten. Many of them ship overseas too, so you just gotta look. It's getting to be too much information, so if you need more details, you can check out the matcha guide that I'm gonna put in the description box below, along with the information on diet miso soup that I'm developing based on Zenmo's recipe. That's gonna be amazing. Make sure you watch this video where I talk about 5 types of girls you encounter in Tokyo. See you, sayonara!